November 18th meeting of the Athol-Royalston Regional School Committee to order. Just a quick reminder for everybody who's watching, you are being recorded for playback on the district website, Facebook, and most likely AOTV, just so everybody.
Hey, Lee.
Yeah.
Lee, just a note from Josh. There's no live stream just yet. So hold on one second.
Yep.
Is there somebody who can give him the button? He says he doesn't have a button to live stream.
He's co-host, so he should have it. I'm trying to see what, he usually does that, so I don't usually deal with it, but let me just see. There's record. Let me see if I have it. I don't see it.
Yeah, he did say he's able to record. It just may not be able to be on YouTube because he can't find that feature on his screen. So he said it's usually right there. So people can view the presentation, the meeting rather, after the meeting because it'll be recorded. So somebody may want to pop that onto Facebook. Maybe Josh, you can do that. So we call the meeting to order. The first line of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. And you said Mitch is here. Oh, there he is. Okay. He was on page 2. Mitch.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mitch. Approval of minutes. First one is October 21st, 2020. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on those particular minutes? Okay.
No.
Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next up, the November 5th meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
So
Make-
moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Public input. I wasn't aware. Nobody contacted me via email. I didn't hear from Cheryl that there was anybody, so we will move forward this evening. Student representative report. Is there a student representative yet?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right, recognition. I think a couple of you may be on page 2, so I'll do my best to look and make sure that I call on you. But Carla, I see you first. You're muted, Carla.
I'd like to recognize Darcy for the immense effort she has been putting in to public communications since this whole year began and before the year began. I just am constantly seeing information going out to parents, to staff, to the public, to everybody, to keep everybody abreast, as well as us, of what's happening in the system. And I think that's a really valuable thing to be doing during this very stressful time. So thank you.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you. Ken,
No.
Tammy,
Just recognizing the high school opening this week and all the admin and staff who've put in endless and countless hours to getting our students back this week. Thank you for all that you do.
okay, thank you. Deb. Nothing?
None, thank you.
Okay. Nancy?
No, thank you.
Mitch?
I just wanted to recognize all the people who put together the excellent meeting on the mascot and secured the variety of guests that we had. The people from the community who came to speak and everybody who put that together. I thought it was extremely well done.
Thank you, Mitch. Bill,
Nothing, thank you.
Chuck,
None, thank you.
and I think that's all I see. If I can't see you, just let me know. All right, unfinished business, explanation of item 9, of an item on page 9 of strategic plan.
Yes, I have this section up under 9, and I believe this is where the question is. If it's not correct, please let me know. Update the district data portal and data meeting protocol structures to include data collection and analysis of specific groups. Is that where the question was located?
Yes,
I'm not sure.
I
I'm not
believe it
sure
was
if
an,
you actually-
I believe it was an acronym that was used in there that
Or
I
it might
had,
have been where you're talking about the FAR cycle?
the what cycle?
The FAR cycle, which is a process for data analysis?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes. So Molly, do you want to chime in for a second and just explain to him what the FAR cycle is?
Sure. So the FAR cycle is, there is an acronym within that. FAR stands for Formative Assessment for Results. And so the FAR cycle is a structure and a cycle that we use to talk about lesson planning, unit planning, and how we use data to support that process. And so it's a 4-step process where we start by clarifying the learning journey. That's the first step. So that's unpacking the standards, developing a unit of study, really getting clear on what it is we want students to know or be able to do in relation to the state standards. In the second step in the FAR cycle is putting in place formative assessments that directly assess those standards. Step 3 is actually analyzing the data from those assessments. And step 4 is putting a firm action plan in place. And FIRM is another acronym, which stands for a variety of instructional practices or steps a teacher may take, such as reteaching and doing an intervention, providing an enrichment or an extension, for an example.
Okay, thank you. That helps a lot.
You're welcome.
Thank you. New business. Vote for Athol High School Assistant Golf Coach.
I believe Dan Beavis is going to speak to that this evening.
Yes, I am. So we offered golf through your approval for this fall, and our numbers for golf were way higher than we anticipated. We actually had 18 golfers come out and compete with the team. So in order to be safe, we had to hire an assistant coach, with all the COVID protocols and in fact that 18 golfers going on the course with one coach is just, a very daunting task for that coach. So we're looking for approval to add an assistant golf coach into our contract for this 1 year so that we can properly pay that coach.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion.
Second,
Discussion. Mitch,
I may have missed it, but what's the cost of that salary?
So this coach would be, the cost of the coach, according to the contract, would be $1,427.86.
any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Vote to approve the Athol High School ARP bond sale.
Yes, I would turn it over to Lynn for that.
Okay, sorry, my camera doesn't seem to be working tonight, so it's just going to be my blank screen and my name here. But you should have gotten a document that says vote of the Athol-Royalston Regional School District School Committee on the top of it that the bond people sent to us. And I believe the last time, I hate to say this, but I believe the last time Fred recommended that we read the whole thing because it says further voted, further voted, further voted all the way down. Unless, well, I think Russ is probably on here, Fred's probably on there. Unless you've all read it all and confirmed that you've read it all, I don't know. unless you want me to read it.
I read
Russell,
it.
Russell, is there a problem with approving it as submitted by bond counsel?
I'm just scrolling through your packet right now to get to it. I just want to take a look at it.
Sure.
It
I
might
don't know,
be,
Cheryl,
It wasn't in the packet.
I
Yeah.
think it was a second email that
It was
followed.
a second email.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
was.
Okay, I didn't get the second email. I have your packet with your Zoom link, but I didn't get a second email.
yeah, the bond language didn't come out till after the packet went out. But if you want me to read it, Russ, I can do that.
How long is
It's very,
the
it's
document?
very long. It's two pages long. You know, it goes through voted the sale and further voted and further voted and further voted all the way down through.
I mean, normally I would recommend you do exactly what bond counsel presented.
Yep.
And in order to do that, you would read it.
Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. Well, the sooner we get going, the sooner we can get through it. So vote of the Athol-Royalston Regional School District School Committee. It starts with I, the superintendent of the Athol Regional School District, Massachusetts, certify that at a meeting at the district school committee held November 18th, of which meeting all members of the committee were duly notified and at which a quorum was present. The following votes were passed by a vote of course, we haven't taken the vote yet, but we haven't gone through the paperwork yet. Voted that the sale of the $1,340,000 general obligation school bonds of the district dated December 2nd, 2020 to BNY Mellon Capital Markets LLC at the price of $1,609,158.40 and accrued interest is hereby approved and confirmed. The bond shall be payable on September 1st of the years and in the principal amounts and bear interest at the respective rates as follows. And there's one for 2001, 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005. It's a 10-year, so it goes through 2030 with the principal amount of $135,000 at a coupon rate of 5%. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the bonds, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated November 4th, 2020, and a final official statement dated November 10th, 2020, each in such form as may be approved by the district treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the district treasurer and the chairman of the district school committee be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a continuing events disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the district, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds for the benefit of the holders of the bonds from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the district treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such form as the district treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update such procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax exempt status of the bonds and to comply with relevant securities laws. Further voted that the district hereby amends its previous votes permitting the borrowing of money to pay costs of capital projects to provide that in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the general laws, the premium received by the district upon the sale of any bonds or notes thereunder, less any such premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to pay project cost, and the amount authorized to be borrowed for each such project shall be reduced by the amount of any such premium so applied. Further voted that any certificates or documents relating to the bonds may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original and of all of which shall constitute one in the same document. Delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file or by other electronic transmission shall be as effective as delivery of a manually executed counterpart signature page to such document, and electronic signatures on any of the documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purposes of the documents and all matters relating thereto, having the same legal effect as original signatures. Further voted that each member of the district school committee, the superintendent, and the district treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. I further certify that the votes were taken at a meeting open to the public, that no vote was taken by secret ballot, that a notice stating the place, date, time, and agenda for the meeting was filed with the town clerks of each of the member towns of Athol and Royalston, Massachusetts, and a copy thereof posted in a manner conspicuously visible to the public at all hours in or on the municipal buildings in which the offices of the town clerks and the district superintendent are located, or if applicable, in accordance with an alternative method of notice prescribed or approved by the Massachusetts Attorney General as set forth in 940 CMR 29-03 4B, at least 48 hours, not including Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays prior to the time of the meeting, and remain so posted at the time of the meeting, that no deliberations or decision in connection with the sale of the bonds were taken in executive session, all in accordance with GLC 30A 1825 as amended, further suspended, supplemented, or modified by the executive order of the Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, Chapter 30A 20, dated March 12, 2020. And that is signed by the superintendent. Okay, so now there is, my understanding is there's a vote of all the school committee members where the following votes were passed by a vote of so many in favor, against, and abstaining, all of which appear upon the official record of the committee in my custody.
Yep, Nancy, you had your hand up.
Could I please make a motion to accept what Lynn just read?
Second.
Okay.
Second.
In a second. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? 0 abstentions.
Just to give you an update, the bond did come in and is given to the Mellon Bank based on the, I did also, and I think Russ, you should have this, the 3 bond people who did bid were Mellon Capital Marketing, Robert Baird, and Bernardi Securities. And the total interest calculation, the lowest one was BNY Mellon, and so the total interest calculation for this 10-year bond is 1.008692%. It's almost like free money. So it was really good. It's really good. We got a good rating of AA, and we're able to get a really good bond rating.
Okay, thank you.
Nicely done.
The new treasurer appointment.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank Lori Bolshevik. She's still going to be with us for another month. She is given us until December 18th. She is our current treasurer. You've met her a couple of times, and she presents reports annually to the school committee. She's done a wonderful job. She's really helped us clean up student activity accounts. Everybody seems to be all reconciled and balanced, and our cash flow is really in good shape. So she's moving on. She found a full-time job in New Hampshire and is actually moving out of the area. We did interviews. We interviewed 3 applicants. A lot of good applications did come in, so we had to limit it because we were getting really a little overwhelmed with them, but we had some really good applicants. And after much deliberation, Darcy and I are recommending the applicant. Her name is Lynn Nystrom. She's actually from Royalston. She is currently the treasurer in the town of Phillipston, and she's been there over 3 years. Seems very interested in coming over and spending 4 to 8 hours every week with us as necessary. And she will start training with Lori on Friday. So basically what we want to do is appoint a new treasurer effective 12/19/20, as Lori's really our treasurer until 12/18. Then we can get her started and get them going. So if you would appoint Lynn Nystrom effective 12/19/20 and also allow her to train for, a few hours every week with Lori, that would be a good vote.
Mitch,
I move that Lynn Nystrom be appointed treasurer.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Mitch,
Just want to indicate that I was impressed with her resume, and particularly like the fact that we're getting somebody who has a history in education as well, having served for 6 years at the village school as a math teacher and paraprofessional.
Yes, yes. This appointment, again, will be effective December 19th, so that Lori is able to stay on through the 18th, if that could be put in the language.
that's fine. I believe I heard Mitch say that anyways.
Yes,
Okay. Great,
Carla.
great.
I assent.
Yeah, just a comment here, Lynn. I agree with everything you said about Lori Balašević, and I'm devastated to find that she's leaving the area. She's been a wonderful treasurer in Royalston.
Yes.
But her name is Balašević, not Bolshevik.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I don't think you should.
I call her
think you should
Lori, I
try
don't
and
say her
avoid
last
calling
name.
her a Bolshevik.
Thank you for that.
Anyone else? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, COVID update.
I'm going to turn the mic over to Andrea Bishop, who's going to be doing a PowerPoint. She'll be sharing it on the screen momentarily.
Good evening, and I'll make this brief, but I wanted to highlight some of the information that Governor Baker and the Secretary of Education, James Pizer, and the Commissioner of Department of Secondary and Elementary Education, Jeff Riley, presented on Friday, November 6th. So one of the big things that they were looking at was changing the health metrics to try to take a really closer look at the positivity rates in the various communities and to highlight some of the changes that directly impact the schools. So one of the first things they did is to look at a municipality's population size. And so these change in metrics, it also better accounts for communities that are running or having a lot of tests within them because of people just being proactive for themselves to go get COVID tests. So here you can see the different population group sizes. Royalston falls obviously under 10,000, and Athol falls between the 10,000 to 50,000 population. And on the next slide, it'll show you the new metric scale. So what you look at is the different areas. So a community is rated gray, green, yellow, or red. So you can see the different metrics and how it's changed a little bit. And currently, Royalston, and I'll show you the slides, Royalston is gray and Athol is yellow. And if you look at yellow, what they're doing is looking at the metrics based on populations of 100,000 and then making some adjustments. So if you look right now on the yellow square for Athol, it is, sorry, I took my notes here, greater than or equal to 10 average cases, 100,000 people, or a 5%, a less than or greater than, sorry, I'm looking at my notes, greater than 5% positivity rate. So I think what we really want to look at is the positivity rate, because Athol isn't at 100, it doesn't have 100,000 people in it, but it's the positivity rate. And in order for Athol to get into, or even Royalston to get into a positivity rate, they have to get some significant positive cases. If you look at Royalston, in order for Royalston to get to red, it needs 25 total active cases. And then Royalston, Athol needs a blend of the greater than 10 average cases and a 5% positivity rate. And so when this was introduced, the governor and the commissioner looked at other states and other data, or how they were to better reflect what's going on within the communities. So this just kind of gives us an overall view of the ratings for the towns. And this chart is what the reports that they send out every Thursday are based on. They used to report out on Wednesdays, the town's matrix, but they are now metrics, they're now reporting out on Thursdays. So this, oh, go ahead. I don't
Yeah, the one thing I'd say, Andrea, is so people understand the difference. Before, we went to yellow when we got to, red when we got to 5 cases. So you can see there is a dramatic difference now in how they calculate it.
Right. And so here is Athol's data from last week. And like I said, we'll get a new data piece tomorrow. But as you can see, if you go over and look at Athol, they're happen to be right at the top. Their positivity rate was the 1.98% as of the 12th of last week, and it went down lower from the previous week. The previous week, Athol was at 2.24. So it is going down. And everybody checks the Facebook page, and Athol's done a nice job of updating the active cases, and we're in constant contact with the Board of Health. Now here's Royalston's slide here, and you can see Royalston is about 4 down, and that if you're looking at their positivity rate in the last 14 days, they're at 0 at this point in time. So this is the chart that comes out every Thursday, and it gives the color rating for the schools, for the communities. The Department of Ed then took this information and has started a kind of a new school transmission definition and information. So I'm just going to read some of this to you so you can see this is exactly what came from the governor's press conference and then the follow-up information sent out. It said districts are expected to prioritize in-person learning across all color-coded categories unless there is a suspected in-school transmission in accordance with DESE's guidance on responding to COVID-19 scenarios. Transmission in schools is defined as spread of the virus between people during interactions in the school setting. While there have been positive COVID-19 cases of staff and students in schools, most of these infections have occurred outside the school setting. If there is a suspected in-school transmission, then the affected classrooms or schools should temporarily shift to remote learning in accordance with DESE guidelines. So the emphasis here is that the state is really putting emphasis on getting the kids back into the classroom. All right. And then the other piece is, this is just kind of, again, continuing with transmission and definitions, that we were given guidance as to what to do if there is scenarios with COVID-19 within schools. It says classrooms and schools should reopen after appropriate mitigation strategies have been implemented as determined in consultation with the local Board of Health, DPS, and DESE. So when we went to remote, we did have conversations with those organizations to talk about how to proceed and what needed to be done to get the school ready to be reopened. Districts and schools and communities designated gray, green, or yellow are expected to have students learning fully in person if feasible. A hybrid model should only be used if there is no other way to meet the health and safety requirements. Parents and caregivers will continue to have the option to choose a district's remote learning program for their children. Schools in red communities should implement hybrid models while maximizing in-person time for high-need students. Communities with the highest number of COVID-19 cases will work with DESE and DPH and local school officials to implement high risk reduction strategies. Again, that's tied to the mitigation and moving forward. Fully remote instructional models should be implemented only as a last resort, and classrooms should reopen after appropriate mitigation strategies have been implemented.
Andrea, before you go on, I just want to add one thing. We have added to the team a union official now, so that when we do meet, there is a union person present to be part of that conversation to ensure the union is in the loop as to what is happening. We have let that person know, however, that they cannot give away any confidential information in relationship to individual people as part of that conversation, but we have included them to ensure that there's transparency with the union.
Okay. And another piece that the governor put into play was some changes to the mask order. And we are again following DESE's guidelines and requirements on wearing masks that were established in the fall reopening guidance plan that was issued in August. And again, they're stressing that the masks are one of the most important tools to prevent the transmission of virus. The big thing that we're working on again, and even as adults, is just remembering the mask should always cover the nose and mouth. And they're requiring for students grade 2 and up and to wear them, and strongly encourage kindergarten and grade 1 to wear them as well, along with any other adult staff, visitor, vendors that come into schools. And the mask breaks typically follow during meals, during the scheduled mask breaks, and there will be some medical exemptions tied with masks. And then the next slide I just put into place, oops, sorry, is I took parts of the district's, face covering policy. I'll go back just so you can see, and I just kind of put in italics how you had made a policy saying that all students in 2nd grade and above, as well as adults, including educators and staff, must wear a mask that covers the nose and mouth at all times when social distancing is observed. And then you put students in kindergarten, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, and grade 1 are strongly encouraged to wear a mask. So that in terms of what the governor was putting into place and encouraging, we've already have that in place where you encourage the younger kids to wear it. And as we walk through the building, you can see a lot of the younger kids are in fact wearing their mask as a method of preventing the spread of the virus. Come on, sorry, used to a Mac, okay. And then what I did here is just to talk about some of the mitigation strategies that we've been using throughout the year that have seemed to be working for us, and talking about having the students and staff are required to do hand hygiene throughout the day upon arrival and dismissal, before eating, before putting and taking off their masks. They're encouraged when in the bathroom to hand wash for 20 seconds. Kids have been shown videos, have been given reminders. If they don't have that available to them, then they also, we have hand sanitizer in each classroom at the entrances of all schools. And you can see that people and the adults and the kids have gotten the habit of keeping their hands clean as much as possible and assuming some responsibility with all of this. And then another piece we're looking at is the social distancing. That, the districts and schools, the DESE recommends that districts and schools should aim for 6 feet between individuals as much as possible, but they're allowing a minimum physical distance of 3 to 6 feet when combined with other safety measures, which means wearing a mask, your hand sanitizing. And then the classroom desks are spread apart 6 feet as much as possible, but no fewer than 3 feet. And then when classroom spaces get big, if we have larger classrooms in the buildings, they have been moved to other locations to follow the criteria of the 3 to 6 feet. And that is it. So that, like I said, the health metrics is just a guide that the state is using, and we have a steady line of communication with the Board of Health to keep updated with the community status. And as it changes, if we have to make adjustments, we are prepared to do that. So if anybody has questions.
Question.
I think I saw Tammy, then Mitch.
My question is, thank you for that presentation. That was helpful. My question was just about, at the beginning of the school year, we had a breakdown on how many students per class there was. And I was wondering if we could have an updated report. I know our levels have increased with people coming back, and I just wanted to see how many kids per class we're currently at right now, if possible.
Yeah, we can get that to you by the end of the week.
Thank you so much.
Mitch, go ahead.
I want to say, before a question, I want to say thank you, Andrea, for the presentation. Once again, thank you to teachers and administrators who are implementing all of these rules and procedures. Very much appreciate them. And they are some of our district's heroes, and I can't thank them enough. My question is in regard to the governor's most recent news conference, or the commissioner's most recent news conference, is indicated that they were submitting free COVID tests to 120 districts in the state. I was wondering if our district will be able to get any of those free COVID tests, which I understand are going to be used for students who are showing symptoms, not asymptomatic students.
Right now, Mitch, it's a pilot stage where they only have 4 districts piloting it at the moment. And once they go through that pilot stage, they will then move to that next segment. So they've asked for only 4 school districts currently in the state, and then they'll be moving from there. So it's very early in its stages. After that, and they've already selected those 4 pilot schools. So the next round of applications, if that's what the district would like to do, we will move forward with it. But right now they were only accepting 4 schools as a starting point because they have to get through all the legalese of the process as well. And what happens when you find or get connected, all of that has to be taken care of. So they really want to run it with 4 pilots first and then move from there.
Thank you.
Yeah. I will say the one piece so everybody's aware, at any time, if we feel there is school spread, we can immediately call DESE for a team to come up with testing for mass testing in the district as part of an emergency protocol. So that's already available to us if we should get to that. If we should get to that point. I don't believe we haven't had to activate it. I think there's only been 1 town in Massachusetts that's had to activate that thus far.
Thank you.
I think that I did view the governor and commissioner's press conference for today when they were discussing the additional, the availability of the rapid kits. To me, I just, and I do this full time, so I'm following this as closely as anybody. But I didn't see the data changeover from the state as being anything other than it didn't fit the narrative at the time, because we went from 132 red communities down to 16 at the click of a pen at the state level. So that kind of gives a false sense of hope to people who run districts, who run communities, who are dealing with this in the private sector, to think that those data points are any different than what they actually are now. It may say on the map a different color, but for example, today, 2,744 more new cases certainly signifies that that doesn't meet the data that is coordinating with those colors. So it's a very false sense of security for a lot of people, and it makes it difficult because I know I had advance notice of the press conference and what was going to be discussed today from the community end, but really what was missing, yes, they talked about rapid kits, but nobody really mentioned the fact, I think Commissioner Riley might have just squeaked on it a little bit, but the CDC has withdrawn all of their support and language with regards to in-person instruction. They removed it. It's completely gone from their website. They're no longer promoting it. So I mean, we need to keep that in the back of our minds. And I did, for the first time, hear the commissioner say that based upon the levels and what's going on in the communities, the districts would have the availability of switching between the models if necessary. I do realize that, we're geared towards and keep trying to do the best we can with in-person, but if these and I fear what's going to happen is we're going to have an explosion after Thanksgiving, because I mean, you have the people that follow the rules, you have the people that don't want to follow the rules, and you got the people in the middle. So the following rules and the middle people are going to be the ones that are going to try and be appropriately concerned about this. But it's the other piece that we're going to have to worry about, and we're going to have to see. We're seeing these cases. It was, this week and last week, the average seven-day span of new cases is over 2,400 cases now. So that concerns me, because we've, throughout all of this, have heard repeatedly that remote's not allowed, this isn't happening. But seems to me our neighbors to the west, Mahar, Orange Elementary, haven't come out of remote at all. And obviously, for some reason, I don't understand why, with the threats of audits and all that stuff to the rest of us, why is that allowable? I'm just not sure why they're not able to go towards in person. I mean, I think we're doing okay with the way that we're moving, and I appreciate the fact that in person is the destination for everybody in the state. But I do urge admin and the school committee to be well aware that if we have to change the process on the fly, we'll change it. There's no guarantee we would pull together a school committee meeting in time to do that with an official vote. So I will say Darcy has been in constant contact with me throughout this COVID situation, especially over the past couple of weeks. I hear from her repeatedly, and she let me know prior to the last change we had, and I supported it. And again, we don't have time to try to assemble a group and do all that. So we are addressing it as appropriately as we can and with the resources that we have.
Lee, may I speak for a minute?
Sure. Yep.
What I would say is the one thing Andrea and I have been trying to do is really do a balance between what the scientists are telling us and what we're hearing in the community, because there seems to be a lag between when the community knows and sometimes when it gets up in the data system for the state. And so one of the things we're really cognizant of is if we're seeing cases and we don't have clarity on how that might impact the school, that's why we made the decision last time to shut down, because we didn't want to wait and take the chance that we had kids in school with COVID. And I know for the community, for some people, it was very much a struggle. There were some people out there who were frustrated. But what I'll say again, our first priority is keeping all of our staff, teachers, and students safe. And so the governor has given us, and the commissioner have given us these guidelines, but we still, and I appreciate you saying that, Lee, we still have the ability to stop it if we need to temporarily while we have those conversations with people and then come back. So Andrea's office is not by mistake sitting outside of mine. It's because we talk probably 4 or 5 times a day on anything that's coming in and out so that we can stay on top of it. So I hope the public understands that we're working really hard to try to find that balance of giving parents the support they need as far as having their kids in, but also making sure our buildings are safe for people to be in them.
Right, and I agree with that. And also, I mean, because we're also seeing and competing with, and I see this in the private sector as well as community and district, there is a bit of a lag between when a child or a parent or an adult has potentially been exposed to a positive person. They could technically be right in our school building, they could be in our town hall, they could be anywhere prior to them actually, getting notified to test. Or so, I mean, we're playing with the unknown, and I think that we're responding appropriately. And again, I agree, trying to do the best that we can. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much.
Great.
Mascot update.
Yes, so I'm going to turn it over to Dave.
All right, try to share my screen here.
Whoops, let me make sure you have.
You got me?
Oh, yeah, you're there.
All right, I'm going to try to share this document. I think this is the best way for me to go over it. So after the last school committee meeting, we decided I'd report back on action steps. So I do have a set of 4 different action steps that I wanted to talk about tonight. And then a few of them do require some guidance from the school committee on how to proceed forward. So when I get to those points, I'll make a note of it. So the first action step is the process of the removal of the mascot and the moniker being the name Red Raider. So as you can see in the first part of this, there's 7 things that I believe after the approval tonight, after this, providing this information with the school committee, we can take action on next week. That being removing of the large building signs, there's 3 of them. Additionally, there's a large graphic on the wall in the gymnasium that was put there. It's more of like a sticker that can be taken down. And there's there's one banner in the gym that clearly says Home of the Red Raider that could easily be taken down in the process, along with another banner. And any other locations in the building where there are signs that say Red Raiders or they have the mascot, those would be taken down next week. The next layer of actionable items would be the week of November 30th. And what we're thinking here is that in the front driveway, there's a couple of signs where we could either paint over or we could purchase a sticker that goes on over the mascot itself. And there are, in every single one of our classrooms, there's Raider Pride Matrix posters. And we were thinking of just purchasing a little sticker and placing AHS over it. So it would be AHS Pride instead of Raider Pride. The week of the next significant piece is the gym floor. And speaking with, I've met with the athletic director, Dan Beavis, numerous times. He's met with local vendors on people that would help us or provide us guidance on how to best handle this situation. So the center court mascot is a significant item there. And, it's within the center of the circle. And after looking at it, feel like we could belt sand that off, remove it, and just leave it plain for now. It would make that floor a little bit less, a lighter color, but nothing. I think we could do that without much to do. Additionally, at the end of the baseline, there's that Red Raider wording, and we figured we could sand that as well and just do it from the baseline all the way to the wall using our custodial staff around the December vacation period, where we could remove that as well. And the last, the next item here talks about a few things where we would be not looking to do the process multiple times. So we'd be looking to make action on that once we have decided a new mascot or moniker, including the football field scoreboard sign. Every single one of our banners in the gymnasium have a little Red Raider on it. We'd like to take them down once and put up the new mascot over the, we would have to take the banner down, take off the mascot, and then that same company would have to put on the new mascot. So we'd like to do that once. Along with banners for the music. And then the last item being all the uniforms and the band uniforms. Those are, that's a significant thing, and we're looking to do that in a planning process. I'll talk about the finances of it in a little bit later, but I'm not ready to get into that yet. But we figure that's going to have to be something that we look at trying to do with the FY22 budget or something else. But I think with guidance of the superintendent and the budget subcommittee, that'll be something we deal with at a little later date. There's 2 items that I would like to get some guidance from the school committee on. And one is the memorial that we have out with entrance to the football, the athletic complex. We just recently moved that when we purchased the new sign. So there is that monument there. It was donated by it was a class gift. And that does have a Red Raider logo on it. It does have a mascot on it and the words Red Raider on it. So I guess I'm looking for some guidance from the school committee level on how to proceed with that.
From my perspective, a couple of points, Dave, to your schedule and to your, I had thought I mentioned at the last meeting, I may or may not have at the November special meeting, that I kind of thought that doing that floor naturally when it was time to redo the entire floor so that it looked uniform instead of having, you know, the vision of belt sandings down the court, the back side and the front side where the words are, and a lighter circle in the middle there. I don't know. I mean, if you feel that it can come out, I just didn't think that we necessarily had to jump on that and do it, and not when it was uniformly done and refinished, and so it looks whole. But again, that's fine if you think that that can be done, because I mean, eventually we're going to have to do that floor again anyways.
Yeah, so when we did talk about that.
Yeah.
We feel that we can do it, and it can have some it can look fine, especially if we do it on the baseline, from the baseline all the way to the wall, and do it on both ends. So it might have some different color, but there are multiple floors that have different colors on it at different areas of the court. You know, talking with Mr. Beavis, he thought that was something that could actually happen based on you know, communicating with butlers and with Lyman signs. He thought that was something that was able to happen. So that's why I put it on here.
Okay. And my other point, the pending legislation, just so everybody knows, that is going to come out of committee at some point, not too in the distant future, allows for leeway with regards to preservation and/or keeping of an existing moniker on something that may or may not be able to be changed or too expensive, etc., as long as you commit to, within a year, changing the mascot moniker logo overall. So my point is I would not personally be in favor of changing something to the effect of the granite donation from the class gifts. Those were donated, they're not taxpayers' funds. So I mean, kind of either removing or trying to redo or reface the granite. I'm not exactly sure that that's in our wheelhouse, in my own wheelhouse anyways. I mean, my thought process obviously was to get rid of the larger monikers in the front of the building, the courtyard, the one that you spoke of, in the gym, and also the side door. Certainly would get us on the process to what the committee voted to do. I just would feel real bad about, not from the standpoint of you know, what's left there, but it would not be representative of the school after the, you know, the new items are enacted, and when, you know, the community and/or committee, or however that's going to work out, makes those decisions. I just, unless somebody guarantees that like, I'm only aware of that granite piece that you're speaking of, and I do agree with the exit and entrance signs that very simply, as soon as we know what the new moniker and or mascot would be, certainly we have enough talent in the area to create a couple of the ovals that would be able to fit over that. So that's not an issue. To me, ripping the granite out or defacing the granite and trying to do something and end up ruining that class gift, I just don't, I'm not too sure about that from my own personal viewpoint. Mitch.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate Dave and everybody who's working with him. I'm going to say that I'm really proud of you and those who have worked with you on this plan to have gotten to it so quickly and so all-encompassing. I really appreciate that, and I think that's that you deserve a lot of credit for that. In regard to the granite monument, and it has the moniker as you described it. It also has the logo. Is this the same cartoonish Indian? Excuse me, I should say Native American. My apologies there. But is this that same cartoon that is on the side of the building?
It's a rough depiction of it. Is it as detailed? No, it's not as detailed. It's a 1980. Lee would know the year of the gift. It was in the 80s. So
1988, actually.
what was it?
1988. My brother graduated, and that
So
was his
1988.
gift.
I think the more offensive one came a little bit later than that. But in regards to it is the mascot. It is the image of what we've become known as the Red Raiders.
Yeah. See, for me, I understand the concern there about it being a class gift, and if we had, and my feeling would be a little bit different if we had a noble, majestic looking Native American there. And I said, okay, that stays as part of our heritage. But if in any way that symbol is cartoonish and could be seen as the current one is, actually making fun of Native Americans, and I'm not saying that was intended to make fun of, but nevertheless, people look at that and many people feel that it does make fun of them or ridicule them. If that logo does in some way bear resemblance to that, then my feeling is that it wouldn't be appropriate to continue it. It would not be appropriate to continue it.
Dave, just a comment to that. Could you, rather than us sitting here this evening trying to hash this out, could you possibly reach back out to Rhonda and Laurel, I believe her name is, and see what they've done in other districts, just to have kind of some sort of a metric that, would something like it's not going to be the official moniker or the logo of the school, but being it was a class gift and it's a granite sign and it's a small, very small depiction, how did they handle that stuff in other districts? I think that would be a question, and get support, get the answer from them, because if they say that, they've all eradicated every single one of them, well, then that's the guideline that we move for. If they said, we accept, or the group that spoke to us accepts that, then perhaps, that's something that we can look at and fall back on. But I mean, yep. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. It's just I've had a great deal of more input on that granite sign that was donated by the class than I have on the committee voting to retire the Raider. It's just,
yep, I meet with them Friday, so I can definitely have that conversation. And this can, I imagine mascot update is going to be an action item for every single school committee, so I can definitely move on, and I can bring it back on a next level.
Appreciate the input. So. Anybody else?
Ken.
Ken.
Yeah, I agree with what Lee's saying. We're moving in the right direction. We're removing some of the signs that need to be removed, and that we should go slow on making a determination what's going to happen with the granite monument that's at the entrance of the football field. Yes, there may be something we need to do in the future, but I don't think that that's one of the pressing issues right now.
Am I good to go? Continue? Yeah,
just a quick thing, Dave.
Yeah, Lee's
and
on
that
mute.
is when you come back to us, could we have a picture of that as well?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right,
Lee, you're on mute.
Yeah. So action step number 2 is the development, the process of developing. Develop a process for engaging student and community in the rebranding. I just given you some timelines. I brought together the AHS mascot subcommittee. That's going to be our working group in regards to how we're going to support the students in the community. So we did have a brainstorming session that just kind of started. I had a conversation with the superintendent. We had some essential questions. We started that conversation of how we could move forward. Today, I did meet with the HERD strategy group. That was the company that the community task force had been in contact with. I did have a very positive conversation with them today. I think they would be a very strong asset to have working in collaboration with us. They are working with the Neshoba Regional School District right now, and they plan to work with North Brookfield, and that's it. They're not looking to get any deeper than that. They're looking to do pro bono work with 3 schools, and all they're looking to get out of it is being able to say at the end of it, you know, they worked with these 3 school districts in the rebranding process. So I did submit the pro bono contract to Darcy today for her to review and to share with legal. So that's that part of it. I'll wait on moving forward until I hear back from them. November 30th, that's Friday, I have a meeting with the community task force, the group that have been very much advocating for the retirement. And then what we're looking to do is next Tuesday bring back the high school mascot subcommittee, hopefully with the support of the herd group, and come together with the process for how we will move forward with engaging the students in the community. And what the AHS mascot subcommittee will encompass, there'll be a group that's connected to them, which will be our student group, and they will have direct access to that mascot subcommittee. So we'll create some advisors to that student group, and we'll be in consistent contact with them. We feel like there'll be a couple of student representatives that'll lead that group and that'll join the high school mascot subcommittee along with representatives from the herd, and we'll develop this process. I'll then present it to our school council, and then I'll meet with the superintendent in the week of the 30th to present the plan. I'll get feedback in those 3 levels and finalize a plan on November 30th for us to launch our next steps. Eventually, obviously sharing it with the school committee December 16th. Step 3 of that process would be the fact engaging the school, the students in the community in the rebranding. And I got a lot of clarity today in regards to that process with the herd group. And we would begin the week of December 14th. And what we would do is we would go through a process of educating students in the community on what a mascot is, what the significant traits are. We would try to develop some criteria for what an acceptable mascot would be. So we would present that. And then we would develop a way in which to get feedback from students in the community. We'd keep that open for 3 weeks. And after that 3 weeks, we would close it on the week of January 4th. And the herd group would actually do the disaggregating of all the data. So all of that collection of information that came in over those 3 weeks would be done by the herd group. They would present back to our mascot subcommittee their findings on January 18th. And they would, and then our mascot subcommittee would distill that list down to 10. We would have 10 mascot monikers that we would consider moving forward. And then in a couple weeks, February 1st, we would come together and we would finalize that list of 10 names, and we would begin discussing how we can get to 3. The week of the 15th of February, we would finalize a list of 3 names that we wish to move forward. That this next phase of it, when we get to the week of March 8th, and this was the guidance I'm just looking for, and it's very important when we move forward. When we get to a point where I'll be leading the process of getting us to 3 different options. That'll be a moniker and a mascot, and you'll have multiple selections within there. He explained it very well, but if there was a tree, a frog, a snake, he would have those 3 names, and he would have multiple pictures that we would be able to select from. So once we have that, the next step becomes making the final decision moving forward. So I'm looking for some direction. Will that final decision on the vote of what the mascot and moniker be come from the school committee, or will it come from a vote of the school community?
In the past, now I know that this may be just a little bit different. In the past, anything to do with any kind of naming, etc., whether it be a school name, a memorial space, etc., that final vote has rested within the authority of the school committee itself. If somebody wants a different process than that, I mean, you're doing all the work, you're getting it to us for the 3 versions. So, I mean, again, it's going to be vetted as far as it can be vetted. I mean, we just kind of need to know, are you going to have some sort of a process while there will be 3 finalists, so to speak? Are you going to do any type of polling or anything within your working groups and within your student base, et cetera, that would indicate which one of those would be, you know, how did they grade them? How, you know, there's 3 finalists for us to look at, but was there a finalist that stood out? Was there a second one, a third, you know, that type of thing would be helpful. Because honestly, my own personal opinion is that I like to weigh more on student opinion and student participation that are in that school building, rather than, you know, trying to negotiate and settle with alumni, because that hasn't been easy. But again, I think if you have some sort of built-in process that brings those to us with a weighted average of what your group and the students, et cetera, feel, then certainly that makes, you know, the process a little bit, I guess, pinpointed and directed for us.
Yeah, that student group will be intricately involved in anything that you see AHS Mascot Subcommittee. They will have representatives in there that they will then, you know, they'll have a larger group. So we will be soliciting and gathering input from the students along the whole process. So yes, we will have that information to be able to share. Ultimately, they'll be involved in helping us get to a point of 10, and they'll be involved in getting us to a point of 3. So yeah, they're going to intricately be involved in that whole process. It comes down to, once we get to 3, we then present it to either the school committee or we give it to the school community to vote. And that's the only kind of part I need to make sure I'm clear on moving forward.
Mitch.
Thank you. Dave, once again, very good process here. I tend very strongly to agree with what Lee is saying here. And that is, ultimately, to me, the school committee came up with the name for Athol-Royalston Middle School, came up with the name for ACES. I'll say came up with it, or at least voted on it. Ultimately, it was our decision. I think this should ultimately be our decision, but I think that we do want to respect very much what the community says and what the students say. And that's why I was thinking the exact same thing that Lee was thinking, which is that it's helpful if 3 names are submitted to, just like when sometimes names are submitted to the superintendent. Occasionally we say that here are the 3 names, but we really feel strongly about this particular one. And then it still is our decision, but at least we know that the students or the community feels very strongly about this one or these 2. For that reason, I would encourage you, obviously this is your process, but I would encourage you that when people vote on this, to have a kind of a weighted vote, like we just defeated in Massachusetts, basically. But it's nice that when students vote, they may say that, okay, my top choice didn't get in there, but my second, you know, I voted for this one for second choice, or this one got third choice. So they feel much more positive about the choices in there. And then when the school committee does vote, even if they don't get their top choice, they say, well, I didn't get my top choice, but my second choice made it. I think that's a good system. But in any way, to be short, I'd like to know how students feel about the 3 choices. It's nice that you have 10 to begin with. You end up with 3, how they feel about those 3. And then ultimately the school committee makes that decision as the elected representatives of the town.
Anyone else on that subject?
Lee?
Go ahead. Like I said, oh, there you are. Okay, Bill. Then Ken.
I agree 100% with Mitch. We took the responsibility for retiring the old mascot, and therefore we took the heat for it, which I think we should be doing because we get paid for the job, we get paid well. And I think we should also take the final vote on putting the new mascot in place. But again, that would come after the students have their input and come up with the recommendations.
Ken.
Well, I'm echoing what Bill said, and I don't know how it could possibly be voted on in the community, how you would go about doing that. I think it would be very difficult to do. We are elected by the community to make those decisions. And as Bill said, I didn't take any heat on it. I didn't get any comments that we shouldn't have made that change. I'm glad that we made that change. And I think that the decision after it's been vetted through a number of different subcommittees would be ours to make.
Okay. Anyone else? Mitch?
Yeah, just to clarify, because I think Bill was being facetious, there is our salary for this position is it's a volunteer position.
Oh, Mitch, I get much more than that. I get 4 zeros.
Just in case there are people watching this and wondering, we're paying these folks?
I thought the money that we voted for the bonds were for the school committee.
All right.
Am I good to move?
Dave.
All right.
Yep.
So I am hopeful, and once again, this is a fluid timeline, but I am hopeful that I'm able to bring this whole process back to you for a March 17, 2021 vote. So that's my game plan, and let's see if we can get there. The last action item is an assessment and to present financial impact to the superintendent. Looking to do that the week of November 30th. Well, I'll meet with Darcy and I'll indicate based on our assessment, working with the athletic director and other people that we've solicited some tentative, just what is this going to look like, what the financial impact will be. I would assume that would then be brought to the budget subcommittee and to be discussed for future consideration of any of those things that might need to take place. So those are just my thoughts in my head. If there's a different process there, that's fine, but I was just trying to put all the different areas of consideration out there in this presentation.
Lee?
Nancy, go ahead.
I believe the budget subcommittee meeting is the 9th. It's the second Wednesday.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, just so he knows.
Yep.
Cutting it down, it's the 9th.
Anything else on this subject?
Yep.
Go ahead. Did somebody say yes or?
Debbie has a.
I can't see. Hold on.
Deb is muted.
Okay. Deb, go ahead. You were just over on the other page, so I couldn't see you.
I just wanted to just clarify with Dave that we're talking about we would pull the entire student body at the high school, not just, it wouldn't be the decision of just the committee there. I mean, we would know what all of the students would vote for.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The entire, okay, all right.
Yeah, we're gonna put it out later, probably tomorrow. Anyone that wishes to be on the student body committee, people that are very vested in it, will have direct access to having feedback and being on the committee. But when we get to a point where we're looking to bring it down to 10 or 3, we would put that out there to the student body population.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
And Lee?
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, I'm just noting, Dave, that from the time that this passed, which was a week ago, to March 8th, when we should be able to have a new mascot and a new moniker. I think that's 4 months, and I think that's really great that you're doing all this work in a very comprehensive process, and you still finish it within 4 months. So again, kudos to you and to your committee.
The plan. See if we can get there.
Okay, Dave, all set?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Equity plan.
Yeah, so if everybody will give me 1 second, just going to pull it up. So we'll go to screen share. I'm going to try to do this quickly because the team, or you should have received in your packet an overview of this. So this won't be the first time that you've seen it. I just did it in a PowerPoint to make it easier for the public to see, but it was included in your packet when we sent it out. And essentially, I just want to go over very quickly with the committee, the equity overview and why we're doing this. To start with, in our district vision, there are some key components of it that are part of what we're saying is important for us to achieve with our students. And one is appreciating diversity. I've highlighted these. And then the other is social and civic responsibility and adapt to an ever-changing world. That's in our actual vision. And then in our core beliefs in establishing high standards and challenging expectations for all students, every member of the school community deserves to be treated with respect and courtesy. So we're saying under our district plan that ultimately our goal is to achieve these things. And one of the pieces in order to do that, I truly believe you have to look at things through a lens of equity to get there. For schools and what they talk about with equity, the first thing they talk about is the fact that all students should be able to meet high standards and high expectations, which we state in our document. And the reason why you're looking at equity is to accomplish that. And so I want to make sure people understand we didn't just come to this conclusion overnight. We're really reviewing and looking at our district plan as a whole. And this document was written prior to me even coming here and was given to me as kind of the edict for the work of the district. So what exactly are we talking about? So what our overview attempts to do is incorporate the vision and core beliefs of the district into an actualized plan that will help to further our work on appreciating diversity and ensuring each student owns their social and civic responsibility and willingness to adapt to an ever-changing world. Secondly, be more cognizant of an individual's need and provide support as it pertains to ensuring high standards and challenging expectations for all students. And then lastly, create outlets to explore the anxiety and tension that has been formulated in our communities due to this tense time in American history by creating spaces where every member of the school community is being treated with respect and courtesy. And we all know the last year has been very tumultuous within our world, and it's how do you give somebody a space to be able to have a conversation that feels safe around that. So the components of our overview are as follows. We have two really big things that we'll be looking at and working through, and that's one is the high expectations for all students. And we're going to do that with what we already have begun, which is to consistently measure student learning and putting in place individual tiered supports and adjustments to instruction as needed in order to have every student meet or exceed grade level standards. That's the first thing. And then secondly, address barriers to unrestricted access to all learning opportunities through providing support as needed. And this may look a little different than what people have seen in the past. And what I mean by this is we are not just looking at this from the perspective of access to get to the state standards, but also access to move beyond the state standards. So we'll be looking very closely at, for those kids who are already at grade level, how do we move them beyond it? So that is part of this. It's not something that is not there. It's very much a part of this thinking process. How do we move kids along who are already at grade level as well? So it's looking at their individual needs and finding ways to provide avenues for them. And then the second part is the environment under which students will work will be just by ensuring all school spaces are culturally sensitive to racism, classism, sexism, ableism, and heteroism, by centering traditionally marginalized perspectives in all classrooms. So if you remember in looking at our strategic plan, we talked about really reviewing the literature that our students are reading, seeing how we might include different voices. As part of that, if you remember last year, we already started that process with the high school and some of the literature being read. All school activities and sports having equal access for all, so letting kids know and encouraging them, no matter female, male, whatever, if you're interested, that you should have, you can have a place in them, and then honor the uniqueness of individuals, embracing diverse backgrounds, values, and points of view to build strong and inclusive communities. So how do we bring that in that thinking as part of what students do? And when we look at strategic plan, objective number 2 tonight, you'll hear a little bit more about that. The next is the action steps we're going to take. We have broken it down, starting with the executive team. And just so you know, the executive team is myself, Molly, John, Lynn, and the other directors of departments, that being maintenance, cafeteria, our COVID lead, and the tech department. And really our responsibility is to ensure equitable outcomes for all students. So how are we making that happen? Facilitate any revisions to the plan, ensure a quality PD for understanding and owning these things are happening, and then take part in self-awareness and leadership PD ourselves, so that we are educating ourselves around this. Next, the district equity team sets the vision and mission for the work. So everything I'm talking about tonight actually came from the district equity team. So you know the district equity team is made up of teachers, staff, and school committee members for the district. And so they have been working diligently to review and figure out what we should focus on. If you remember correctly, I showed you before the RIDE survey, which really looks at schools' equity and kind of distinguishes where are the areas we need to do deeper work in. And so our visions have really come from that survey results that the team has looked at. Then school district administrators create a year-long PD for teachers and staff with a timeline to include self-awareness and unconscious bias. Ensure district plan is implemented, monitor work in schools, take part in self-awareness and leadership training. So you know our administrators began that leadership training last month. Guidance and adjustment counselors, their real focus will be on really going through the process of training kids in self-awareness and self-management, along with equity, which John will be talking about in a little bit. Teachers and staff starting to take part in their own PD around self-awareness. This will be happening starting in September. Ensure that the SEL strategies that we're giving teachers for students is being put into place, where we are talking about a commitment to justice, helping kids to understand what that means, and to understand their own identities and biases in relationships to a system of power, so that they understand their own place in that. And within classrooms to really help them understand what does it mean to be self-aware in that area, and then take part in self-awareness and justice PD to able to create classrooms where students achieve at high levels and to develop just environments for all students. And then lastly, the students, as I said, will be taking part in all of this, and we'll be getting trained in self-awareness and justice PD as well. So those are the elements of this, and I just wanted to make sure people understand this plan is not separate from our strategic plan. It's just looking deeper at what are some of the elements we need to do to actualize these pieces within our vision and core beliefs within our district. So I wanted to take a minute tonight to talk about that. I don't know if anyone has any questions. Okay, so it looks like we're all set, Lee, on that.
Lee, you're muted.
Of course I am. Mitch, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank you for that presentation, Darcy. Having been a member of that committee and also the Influence 100 group, I want to point out to the committee that that while our school system is front and center in exploring these issues, it's nevertheless something that the whole state is involved in. And when we meet with the Influence 100 fellows, there are oftentimes 80 to 100 people there representing communities from around the state, Eastern Massachusetts, Central and Western Massachusetts. And it's a great dialogue that we're able to have with the other school systems.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Next up, communications. You have the enrollment sheet in your packet. We usually use it as a reference point. If anybody has any comments, that's fine. If not, you can certainly contact Darcy directly. Financial statements and approval of accounts. Lynn?
Okay, let's start with the expenditure report. You all have copies of that, and I'm just quickly looking at it if I made some notes on here for you. Let's see, a couple notes on page 6. If you want to look at transportation, we are going to propose a line item transfer tonight from a line item called SOR for Royalston, which when I spoke to Royalston at the town managers meeting last month, they are not going to use that line item for anything. So we are going to recommend we transfer that over to transportation, but we'll get to that with the budget line transfer. That will help us with the second runs that we may be seeing this year. Also, I'll explain that we did get Town Cares Act. And again, when we met with the town managers last month, the town of Athol has given us $300,000 in CARES Act funding that they have a line item in the town on. And we're very appreciative of that. So one of those line items is they will be able to take care of if we have double run charges for October, November, December. They will be able to cover that in their grant. So that will help us in our budget line on this. They also are going to help us with the extra custodial staff. Again, the CARES, the grant that the town has, similar to the one we have here in the district, is it closes on December 30th. So we can only charge expenses to it that occur up through December 30th. So that's why I'm saying October, November, November, December for the double runs for the buses, and anything after September, October, November, December for any of the extra custodial that we brought on. And we did hire 2 more custodial staff, so we can charge their salary, their wages to that through the end of December. And then they've also put in their line items some of the HVAC that's happening at the high school, up to $220,000 of that, which should be just about most of it. They also are going to put into the Town Cares Act. So that's going to help tremendously. So we want to thank them very much for that. But as far as the expenditure report goes, unless somebody has any specific questions on it, we're looking good. That's why on page 9, the extraordinary maintenance account is back to the 45,000 or 50,000 that we normally have there. Because that funding now for HVAC is going to the town. Bottom line, we're looking good, and we're on target to, close again at this point with a healthy budget balance in the expenditures. Any questions on expenditures? Okay, revenues. Revenues are a little different. We all know that the state has been really, really slow with getting the fiscal, and we're talking about fiscal 21 budget out. We did get a House budget last week, and we hope to get a final budget by the end of this week or next week for the final. But as you know, we have 5 iterations before we get a final. And the one we got last week, the school district is out about 80 grand. Most of it comes from the transportation reimbursement piece, because last year we used a lot of the transportation for meal deliveries rather than transportation because we weren't transporting kids, and they do not reimburse you for that. So, but I think looking at our line items as of today, we do have some strengths in some of the line items, and we, I think we'll be able to cover that 80,000. As long as that holds up for the last budget, we should be good. Any questions on revenue? Okay, and next is our budget line transfer. You should have a sheet, and as I said, what we would like to do is transfer over the 26,500 for the RCS SRO, which we put in the budget for them, and agreed last month when we met with them that they will not need that. So we are going to transfer it over to the yellow bus double runs if you want to vote that to happen.
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Okay.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, next is the grant report. Again, you have a copy of the grant report. After I sent you this grant report, at the bottom now we're going to add the town cares grant. So the next grant report you get will have grant number 766 on it for $300,000, and that will show us what the town cares grant is. Our extra busing, our extra custodial, and our HVAC at the high school. We also have just this week learned that we got a human health services grant, an HHS grant. I know John's here somewhere. Grant number 767 will be our HHS grant, and that came in for $49,587. And I believe that, again, is all COVID related. So I'll have to sit with John. John and I will have to sit with Darcy and go over what that is and what is eligible for expenses on that. That was sort of a surprise, a good surprise. It was back in July and August, I think, that we saw that come through, and probably was one of John's first assignments when he got here, because when it came through the other day, we're all looking at each other going, where does this money come from? we weren't quite sure. So I tracked it down, and John goes, oh yes, that's that grant that I requested back in July and August. So we will look into that and have some more funding there. Any questions on grants?
Nope.
Okay. We did receive, as you know, the ARP project, the high school project, has been finalized. That's why we're getting a permanent bond to finish that off. And our final audit was done, and we're receiving $298,076, which we're applying directly to the bond. That's why the bond is coming in at 1.3, because we're applying that money directly to it, plus the premium that we got on the bond. So just to let you know that that has come in. Any questions on that? Okay, under other, just something quickly, minimum wages will be changing again January 1st of this year. We currently, the minimum wage in the school district, we're currently paying $13 an hour for anybody at minimum wage, which would be our support staff, our custodial subs, our cafeteria subs, our secretary subs, and our para subs. We will bring a recommendation to the budget sub. I do have a recommendation to bring through to them, and then we'll bring it on to the school committee after that. And that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you. Strategic plan update, goal 2.
Yes, at this point, I will turn it over to John, as promised at the last meeting, to give you the last segment of the revisions and activities for the strategic plan. So John is going to present.
Thank you very much. Actually, I am going to be presenting with Amanda. So if Amanda, you could unmute yourself. And let me just introduce myself for anybody who's joining us tonight that is not familiar with my position here. I'm John Salvardis. I'm the Director of Pupil Personnel Services. And Amanda, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, that would be great as well.
Sure. I'm Amanda Pagar-Ween. I'm one of the Deans of Students at Athol High School. and I'm the chair of the school counseling department.
Great, thank you. So I trust that everybody can see the presentation on their screens. If I could get a thumbs up at all for those folks that can see it. Great, thank you. So essentially, we're reviewing tonight the strategic plan, specifically Objective 2. And Objective 2, the main objective of this has not changed since last year. So the wording is basically the same. Create and use a tiered system of social, emotional, and behavioral supports to improve overall student engagement in classrooms. Amanda?
Yep, so the plan includes 5 different initiatives. The first initiative in the plan is to review, design, and implement best practices in both our counseling and teaching, and to support students with social emotional needs, with a particular focus this year on self-awareness, self-management / regulation, and equity.
So essentially with this particular component of 2.1, the goal is to really focus our efforts, like Amanda said, primarily on self-awareness. And we really kind of define that using specific explanations or definitions for the term, which really means that this is a conscious knowledge of one's own strengths and abilities, their feelings, their ability to have insight into growth. In self-management, really looking at the definition to include the ability to self-regulate one's emotional responses, to actually set and achieve goals, and to regulate behavior. And equity, we're looking at efforts that recognize that we live in a diverse community and that the views and our endeavors are to facilitate meaningful actions, which will result in a more equitable school experience for all students in the community to succeed.
So the second initiative of the plan is about developing and refining lessons that are used in both morning meetings and or advisory. The different schools have different models to support programming that's designed by the school counseling staff. This programming will link the self-awareness, the self-management and regulation to issues surrounding equity.
So in this area, the goal is to provide a coherent model of what SEL practices will look like for this school year and to see an increase in the use of SEL and PBIS strategies. Over the course of the year, we want to assure that teachers are connected with resources that promote our 3 focus areas. Part of this effort will be to utilize our PBIS teams to aid us in identifying strategies that we can be used in and out of the classroom. We want to also utilize our walkthrough, basically monitoring process to look at instructional engagement and see how it actually links or supports the 3 focus areas during those walkthroughs and other activities within the school.
So the third initiative of the plan is to create opportunities to begin to include families of diverse backgrounds into our discussion and decision-making bodies like the school councils and the CPAC, and to express their thoughts and perspective about their, all of our students' social emotional well-being and their achievement.
So part of our efforts here, we want to utilize family surveys to gauge perceptions of our efforts and build an understanding of where we need to provide greater efforts in promoting equity and SEL focuses in our schools. This will involve recruiting families, community members, and other stakeholders into sharing their voice and participation in district discussions and other planning activities. Our goal is to reach out through not just the use of the surveys, but also other community supports to pull individuals in of diverse backgrounds across the district. We're hoping that the level of outreach will aid us in understanding and addressing cultural barriers and promote family engagement on a wider level within the district.
So in the fourth initiative, we're looking to select, train, and set expectations for all of our administrators, our teachers, the paras and staff in the use of student engagement strategies that incorporate culturally relevant pedagogy while we're reinforcing self-awareness in relationship to understanding equity and a growth mindset. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the SEL and the Mental Health Academy. Essentially, we have a district team that includes myself, Shirley Mitchell, who's the Dean of Dropout Prevention, Andrea Bishop, who's our COVID lead, but also our parent engagement liaison, and 4 of our adjustment counselors, including Cheryl Wheeler, Christina Doe, Jackie Mikowitz, and Hannah Moore Wheeler. Essentially, an organization called Education Development Center, EDC, and Transforming Education have partnered with the Mass DESE to provide school districts with intensive professional development academies focused on both social emotional learning and mental health. So our team has already started, and we will participate in various webinars, peer sharing calls with other districts, and we will receive this year a total of 40 hours of technical assistance from a training and technical assistance specialist from EDC.
So some of the definitions that I offered earlier really for self-awareness, self-management, and equity fall into alignment with an organization known as CASEL. CASEL has been in business since the mid-1990s, around 1994. Actually, CASEL stands for Collaboration in Academics, Social Emotional Learning. And essentially the organization has a co-founder who's named Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is kind of known as like the 20th century designer of emotional intelligence. And CASEL has basically 5 tenets that are basically promoted through its teaching. Self-awareness and self-management are 2 of those areas. And we are looking to actually align ourselves, and we've already started working on this, with a company called Panorama. So Panorama actually is going to be helping us with our survey efforts, and their efforts or their product is essentially also aligned with CASEL. So the 5 tenets of social emotional learning and what we're actually doing with that, we see a lot of good alignment between CASEL, Panorama, and hopefully what we're going to be moving towards as we implement some of these efforts. So essentially, we will look at utilizing Panorama to develop a survey that focuses on our 3 target areas and present that initially to students to use that to really kind of develop a baseline of data and also to help us to utilize that information to monitor and kind of structure some of our efforts as we move forward. So we are intending to also look at what we have available for materials and to supplement some of the materials that we have or to possibly replace them with information or materials that actually align specifically with CASEL. And there are quite a few resources in Panorama in one of their components that they have called Playbook that is essentially a resource library of sources that are developed and utilized by teachers throughout the country that support the 5 tenets of the SEL program as actually developed by CASEL. So we're hoping to actually utilize our counseling staff to essentially help us along with teachers to roll out our survey, collect that data, review it, and then implement specific curricula that focuses on our 3 areas. And then as we move forward, utilize the survey at least one other time throughout the school year to see if there's been any growth in areas and to look at areas where we might still be weak so that we can kind of like revisit and retrain in those areas.
And the 5th and final initiative that's part of our strategic plan is to create professional development on social emotional learning, obviously including the focus areas that we're talking about, self-awareness, self-management, and providing equity leadership for administrators that will support the continuous building of a diverse culture in our schools.
And so specifically for 2.5, we'll be working with building administrators to identify PD opportunities that will assist them in building supports and PD in the individual schools in the district as we move forward. Some of this work has already started with the work that we have been doing with our equity consultant and the equity leadership PD that we have started through Harvard University. This effort will aid our administrative team in formulating and evolving PD focus on equity and supports for the next school year. So at this point, are there any questions that folks have for either myself or Amanda? Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Oh, Carla has a question.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Carla, yes.
This is a kind of broad question. The word equity is used throughout these documents in a very broad sense, which I applaud that. It's very appropriate because there are many, many different facets to equity. Sometimes it seems to be being used so broadly that it's hard to figure out what the meaning is, what equity, in what sense are we talking about? Would John or Amanda feel like talking a little more about what equity actually means in the context of this document?
Sure. And Darcy, if you'd like to chime in first, I do have kind of a brief explanation for myself that, or definition that I've been using that I think is in alignment with what the district, the equity committee has been working on. But essentially I look at it as like recognizing that we have diverse backgrounds of individuals within our community, and the things that we need to do to recognize the supports that any individual needs to meet with success.
So that includes people who are specific learning disabilities, special needs, people with who might be marginalized for a variety of reasons. In
Yes.
other words, so we're
Essentially,
looking at equity for all people to get everybody up to where they need to be.
right. So essentially, Carla, I mean, part of this is for me as a special ed director, making sure that folks don't marginalize students with disabilities by doing things like using testing scores to say that these are the absolute predictors of how these students are actually going to perform in the future. I mean, probably one of the best examples that I have come from meetings that I've attended, whether it's in person for students in our district or students that we actually have in out-of-district placements. Sometimes students who score extremely low on IQ tests, sometimes folks really kind of interpret that as a predictor of, well, they'll always need some level of support and they won't really be able to live independently. And sometimes we really do see that as students develop and they're given the opportunities and supports that they need. There's a lot of students that have possibly low scores, but it doesn't mean that they can't do things like hold down a full-time job or get a driver's license or live independently on their own. But sometimes I think in our culture, we put a lot of focus on scores alone instead of really looking at the abilities of the individual and determining what that person needs to meet with success, just like they would with their typical peers.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Mitch.
Speaking for the Equity Committee, I want you to stress we worked very hard on coming up with this definition, and I can direct your attention to the vision on the equity overview, and it indicates that we'll strive for equitable and respectful educational experiences for every student, family, and staff member, regardless of, and we considered each of these: race, religion, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, ability, home or first language, national origin, age, or physical appearance. And finally, dropping down to the last part, students and adults are welcomed and supported, and their faces, voices, and diverse experiences are reflected and valued. The district honors the uniqueness of each individual and embraces diverse backgrounds, values, and points of view to build a strong, inclusive community. So those are, and to sum it up, it said every student, regardless of who he or she is, and what their background is and what their abilities are. Every student deserves access to the full range of educational experiences and to the best that our regional school system can provide for them.
Thanks, Mitch.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
To the reports of the committee. Reports of the chair, I actually have nothing this evening. Budget, finance.
Budget committee did not meet in November. Our next meeting will be December 9th, and as Lynn indicated, we will be just discussing the minimum wage.
Okay, thank you. Facilities.
We didn't meet this month.
Okay. Negotiations. I know you've met.
Negotiation subcommittee and the ATA have agreed to continue the process in mediation. We are starting on December 8th.
And just so so everybody understands, that would be mediation on the process of the memorandum of agreement, not on the successor contract, correct?
That's correct. We have, yes, that's correct. We're trying to we've sent out 4 meetings for the next contract, and we haven't got any dates approved.
Okay. Academic excellence.
We met this morning. Molly spoke about the successful fall learning walks that took place both in person and remotely, and also included state representatives. John gave us an overview of what he just presented tonight, the strategic plan objective 2. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Public relations.
Public relations did not meet this month. It was Veterans Day.
Okay. And finally, policy sub.
We approved the policy ACAB, which is the sexual harassment policy that will appear in your packet next month for a first reading. And then I had a chance to kind of get an overview of what the procedures will look like for implementing that policy.
Okay, thank you. Committee member referrals, again, going around the Brady Bunch setup as I see you. Mitch.
Just continued congratulations to our staff, our teachers who continue to work extremely hard, and to our administrators who are doing a great job of leadership in our community.
Thank you. Deb.
None.
Okay. Tammy.
Nothing right now, thank you.
Okay. Ken.
Nothing right now, thanks.
Chuck.
None, thank you, Lee.
Okay. Bill.
Nothing, thank you, Lee.
Carla.
Nothing, thank you, Lee.
Nancy.
Nothing. And so can I make a motion to adjourn?
You may.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night.
Thank you very
Good night,
much.
folks.
Good night.
Have a nice
Stay safe,
Thanksgiving.
everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.